Hello, Unfiltered Friends, and happy Pride Month. I figured for the month of June, I'd get in some podcasts that uplift the voices of some of our LGBTQIA plus friends. And today I have my friend Megan on, who has a sexuality that she has dubbed, and you'll find out in the episode, I don't care. Which is awesome. So the conversation with her is always good. I think this is the second time I've interviewed her. And before we get into that, I want to thank the sponsors of this show, which is my Twitch community, which if you want to watch live, twitch.tv/supdaily. But also, one of the perks over on my Patreon is a shout out in an episode. So here we go. We have Terry Nosworthy, Charles Sipes, oh Lord, Lena, Carla, Raymond, James Olson, Luke, Eric, Jonathan Vasong, Rachel Wong, Paul, my dad, Frida, Nuno, Jenna, Gregory, Dono, Tracy, and Matilda Melvin. So thank you so much. If you would like to sponsor this podcast, help it grow, if you enjoy the message, patreon.com/team Nope, not Team Thompson anymore. Patreon.com/Unfiltered Friends. And let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Unfiltered Friends podcast. Before we introduce you to our next friend, I want you to take a moment to think about everything that led you to where you are right now. Do you see how strong you are? Do you see how great your story is? I hope you do, and I hope you learn great lessons and get inspired by our next friend's story on the Unfiltered Friends podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Unfiltered Friends podcast. And in honor of Pride Month, I thought I would spend some time elevating the voices of some of our LGBTQIA plus friends. And I remember back at TwitchCon having a really interesting conversation with this person about it. So I thought I would give her an opportunity to share because she said I'm down. So we have on Megan Lenius. Hey, Megan.
Hello.
Hello. So before we get into any of the sexuality stuff, tell people kind of who you are and what you do.
My name is Megan. I sing on the internet. That's what I do for a living. I sing requests, I play requests, I use a loop station, so I got like an Ed Sheeran thing going on. I belt a lot.
You do. I'm very jealous of your
like
belting.
An idiot.
We all act like idiots. Why do people follow us?
We can have a belting lesson. Can I give you a belting lesson?
Sure.
In Denver?
Yes.
That would be a sick stream. That would be so much fun.
A belting lesson? But do you think, though, that some people just don't have that ability to really do it?
No, it's just it's just finding notes that, and oh gosh,
I can belt in my range.
I don't actually know what I'm talking about. I just like repeat things that I've heard vocal coaches tell me.
So you're about to bro science me right now?
So yeah, kind of like, so like, and it's stuff that like I think about when I guess. So it might not be accurate, and I usually paraphrase most of what I say, and I usually tell anybody before I give them any sort of like training or advice is that I don't actually know what I'm talking about. This is just from me having voice lessons for many, many years. But basically, belting is, from what I know, is it's just about finding where a note is able to resonate and feel like comfortable. And then it's just a matter of breathing techniques and learning how to control that breathing, Yeah,
I think one of my struggles is a lot of the belting that you hear on the radio and stuff is in a range that I don't currently possess. Like I'm a baritone. So like a lot of pop music, like when I would cover, because, I did a lot of covers of pop music on YouTube, I would have to transpose it down at least a half step. Like Bruno Mars, step and a half. Forget it. Like,
oh my gosh, his range is kind of high for me.
It's crazy. So, and there's another streamer, Doc Bizzle. Doc Bizzle, is that his name?
Yeah.
he taught me after a decade of making music videos that there's a transpose key on my keyboard. So I didn't have to learn it in a completely new key. I could have just hit a button, played it in the original key, and it would have been in a key that I could sing, arranging these 100-track thick a cappella pieces.
That's like
so much easier.
That's like that perfect example of work smarter, not harder.
Yes. I don't know how to do that. I just kind of wing it, and I mean, I get it done. It's just I'm tired.
Sometimes it's just not always the best way to get it done. It's fine. It gets done, and that's all that matters, right?
Yeah. You were, before you got involved with streaming on Twitch, I know you had stuff on YouTube. Did you work with any like labels? Were you signed with anybody? Anything like that?
No. I mean, so I've had a lot of mentors.
Yeah.
I had, when I was 13, I think was the first time, because that would have been when I released like my first EP, which you can still find it if you really want to look for it, but I don't want anyone to find it, so I'm not going to tell you how to.
Don't be embarrassed about it. I love, like, when people come to me and they're like, I wish I could make YouTube videos like you. I was like, hold my
like,
soda.
I understand.
Let's look at this. Let's look at this video. Like, I didn't used to make content like me. You know, you
Yeah,
have to
but
practice.
it's like, think about you writing a song at 10 and then recording it when you're 13 years old and then having it be on the internet. Like, that's what it is.
Oh,
so it's just like it's like if your mom were to just post your, baby butt all over the internet or something of that sort. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways,
but my baby butt's real cute, and my
I'm
baby
sure it
butt.
was.
Now, if my mom was posting my butt now on the internet, I might have a little bit of an issue. But like, you got to show people your arc, because then it's inspiring, right? Don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. Be happy that you wrote it, because so I was never a One Direction fan, but I loved that song, little simple things. I don't want this little thing slip out of my mouth. You know that song?
No. I'm
in love and all these. I think it's called Little Things.
Yeah.
And
okay, it sounds familiar.
Yeah. It was Little Things. And the reason that I found out that I loved that song when not being a fan of One Direction is because Ed Sheeran wrote it. And Ed Sheeran wrote it when he was like a teenager. And it's still good. Maybe just not for you. What I'm saying is, embrace your path, because I do.
I embrace my path for sure, but I can still not enjoy the recorded content that's on the internet.
That's true. Yeah.
I understand. I think it's really interesting, and I get it. It's the same thing. Like, I'm very appreciative of, like, Twitch is really cool because you have clips from the entire span that I've been streaming, and being able to, like, sometimes I'll fall down holes of going and watching my really old clips or trying to find the oldest ones just to hear like vocal transformation and see like stream transformation and things that have gotten better. Yeah, I get it. I understand. But like, I just don't like listening to a song that I wrote called Charming that I was when I was 12. Like,
but was it charming?
No.
No.
Stop it.
Okay. Well, okay. So you and I hung out quite a bit at TwitchCon, which was nice. Got to perform with you at TwitchCon, which was also wonderful.
That was awesome.
And then we got into, as I tend to do, I got into the subject of sexuality, and I was really interested in your response, because I don't meet a lot of people who feel how you do, or at least they're not being vocal. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, is to give more visibility to the way that you view sexuality and the way your sexuality is. So if you were to describe what it is, what would you say?
I don't care. That's literally my it's that it kind of just depends. Like, it doesn't really matter. It goes, I guess I look at it as it kind of just depends on the day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes like there's it depends on the person. It sometimes I'm it I think sometimes you fall into I also don't like labels, and that's usually why my
Ah,
answer is I don't care, because I don't think it should matter necessarily.
yeah,
And I feel like I don't know, like labels sometimes have this, like sometimes people really hold this power in saying this is what I am and this is what I can be defined as.
yeah.
And I guess I've always just kind of floated around, and then there it got to a point where it was just like, you know what?
Who
I don't
cares?
really care what it is.
Yeah,
Who cares? Who else? Nobody, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you should like me for me. It shouldn't matter who I like or who else I like. It's
yeah,
just depends on the person.
yeah. It's just like, so I guess some people could define that as if they were to pansexual.
Yeah, and I've heard that and like pan is more like personality based. You're not
Right,
looking at a gender, you're looking at a personality.
right.
And that's the other thing, is that that's not always true. Like, or like I've heard pansexual is people don't look at you're not looking at looks, you're just attracted to somebody's personality. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing, is that I'm very attracted to faces, and there are some times where I'm really attracted to specific genders, and they have very horrible personalities, but like it's they're really hot.
They're
Like, that's
hot.
sometimes the
Yeah.
other thing, so it's not like I would be pan. So that's why I kind of just settled on this. It doesn't matter.
Well,
I don't care.
and a lot of times you
Yeah.
hear the term queer as well for people
Mm-hmm.
who don't like
Yeah.
labels, but then I understand that I've had, let's just say I've had queer and the F word screamed at me while I was getting my head pounded in, so I have a sensitivity to that word, but is it
Yeah.
an accurate descriptor? Would it be more accurate than like pan would? Or, I know you say you don't care,
Yeah.
but for people who
Mm-hmm.
are because as much as labels aren't important, it does help a lot of people to understand what's going on with them. Like I hear it a lot with
Yeah.
transgender people that are
Mm-hmm.
like, this whole gay thing is not I'm not identifying with it.
Yeah.
What, like, and then they start reading about transgender, and it makes them feel good knowing that they can kind of understand what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who like, I'm trying to think of a way to like help people understand if they feel the way that you do but aren't as strong as you are and being like, I don't care. Would queer be good?
I mean, I don't, and that's the thing, is that I haven't really tried to figure out what label would work. And the same thing with queer, is that I feel like that also, I guess, for the most part, queer just seems like an umbrella term. Like, anybody that is, LGBT plus, like in any sort of form, could say that they are queer, and that would,
Yeah.
like, I guess that's to my understanding. Or maybe is that more of a look thing?
I
Sometimes
don't know.
people,
And
like,
I think the point is like
yeah,
it really doesn't matter. It does help
yeah,
people, but I think ultimately it would be awesome to get to the point where who cares? Like who cares if I'm
yeah,
straight? Who cares
hmm,
if someone's bi? Like who you
yeah.
go to bed with or as is really nobody else's business besides you or whom you're going to bed
Hmm.
with, you know?
I I guess, okay, the more that I think about it, the more that I would usually say, I would tell people that I love people. I don't care about who they are.
Mhm.
That's not, it's not necessarily a I'm falling in love with a gender, or I'm falling in love with a personality, or I'm falling in love with a specific trait. I like people. That's my thing. And
Yeah.
so it's not, it's such a, and you could also probably title that as fluid, is probably a like fluid, is that a
Yeah.
sexuality, like
Sure,
a,
it is now. If it's
maybe,
not,
right?
no, I know there's gender
Yeah.
fluid, but
Uh-huh.
Well, the thing is sexuality as a whole is fluid.
Yeah,
Do
exactly.
you know about the Kinsey scale?
Yes.
Yeah, so like the Kinsey scale is, I believe, 0 to 7 or something like
Hmm.
that, and one side is completely heterosexual and the other side is completely homosexual, and
Yeah.
most people on the planet fall somewhere in between, and also are on different parts of that scale throughout their life. Like the discovery
Yeah.
process It's not like one or the other and this is what you are. It's like, well, maybe I want to try this. Okay, that doesn't work, and you
Exactly. Hmm.
experiment.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason why I also don't like labels, is because I and this also kind of falls into I talk a lot about vulnerability, and I talk a lot about Brene
Mm.
Brown. Brene Brown was somebody that
Oh
I've
my
been
goodness.
listening
We
to for
we went into
years.
like we went
Oh,
in depth
yeah.
into under her trust episode, and my friend
Uh-huh.
Grace was with me, and she was crying because
I
it hit
I
home.
that's what I have, this Stay Vulnerable tattoo, and then I also have this tree tattoo
Uh
is for Braving the Wilderness, which is her other book. And Braving the Wilderness, that one talks a lot about true belonging, and how, and it's based on a Maya Angelou quote, and I wish I knew the quote off the top of my head, but it's essentially saying that true belonging is understanding that you belong nowhere and everywhere at the same time.
mhm.
And it's this idea of how our society is so focused on putting everybody into these boxes, and we become so focused on, you know, making ourselves fit into some other mold
Yeah.
that somebody in our lives has created for us, or we have created for us, instead of realizing that there is no mold that anybody could ever fit in, because everybody's different, and
Yeah.
that's who humans are.
Right.
And so I that's where this kind of idea of labels also makes me upset, is that I feel like it's a box that you're trying to put somebody in.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about like the Kinsey scale and how everybody falls on this spectrum, it's like, why are you saying, okay, you're gay, but if you say that you're gay and all of a sudden you're dating somebody that's the opposite sex of you, now everybody that's in your family is really confused as to why you're
Yeah.
all of a sudden dating somebody else,
It's
or,
almost like the
whatever
labels are
else.
for other people, not for you.
Exactly. And I don't think that labels should matter at all. And
Right.
so I usually just kind of leave it as, I like everybody. I like people. I love people. I don't really have a label at
Yeah.
all.
And I'm sure that, I mean, I'm sure you didn't start like that. I'm sure that was a mindset that had to develop over time, correct? Or were you always like this?
I mean, I I remember in probably middle school on like Tumblr, there was a post of, and I think this is where this kind of like stemmed from.
Uh
But
huh.
I saw a post, and it was somebody talking about their friend who is gay, and how when how he never came out to his parents, he just brought his boyfriend home one day, like somebody that was straight would with their girlfriend or their boyfriend. And his parents never asked him anything about it. His parents never cared. They were just like, okay, cool, this is your boyfriend, awesome. And I remember seeing this, and at the time, I lived in a very, there's like a Rolling Stones article about my school district, and how we had like more suicides in my school district in a year than like anywhere else. And it had to do with a policy where if a kid were to come to a teacher and say, hey, I'm gay, or I'm this, or I'm not happy, or whatever else, the teacher couldn't say anything, um, or they would get fired. They had to send them to a counselor. And so
Uh,
there was this whole thing that went on, and they blamed it on this policy. You can like look it up if you really want to.
what's the district?
Anoka District 11.
District Anoka
District,
District
yeah,
11.
Minnesota District 11. Yeah.
Minnesota District
Uh,
11. Okay, I'll try to look that up
mhm.
later.
Yeah, there's a Rolling Stones article on it. But I remember, so, like, that was kind of the place that I was in, and I remember seeing that, and that was the first time that I had ever seen something where it was somebody treating somebody that was, quote unquote different, somebody
Yeah.
treating somebody that was different in, in this world, completely normal. Like there wasn't
Yes.
anything that was different about them.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of stemmed this like conversation, because this was also when I was, first probably really thinking about, like questioning my sexuality at that time. And so I heard that, and I was like, hey, that is a really cool thing to think about. I don't think it should matter. I don't think I should have to have some big coming out like, hey, I'm gay, everybody, I'm into girls, I'm into guys, I'm into this, I'm into that. Like, I don't think that should matter. I think I should be able to take whoever I like spending my time with to whoever I'm with, and it should just be great no matter
Mm-hmm.
what, because I guess that's how I would treat other people.
Yeah, it seems like
Yeah.
making it less of a deal makes it less
Hmm.
of a deal.
Exactly.
The coming out
Mhm.
process is important for
Some
whomever who
people.
wants to come
Oh,
out. Like
yeah,
you had to come to the
definitely.
realization that you're
Hmm.
I don't give a shit sexuality.
Exactly.
And so
Hmm.
like that's important, but beyond that, it's not your responsibility to help other people understand your sexuality. That's on
Exactly.
them, and if they don't want to accept it, then that's
Hmm.
their journey. And I think too often people spend time trying to convince everyone that they're okay and
Hmm.
that what they are is acceptable. Where really
Exactly.
all you have to do is be able to look yourself in the mirror and love yourself. And
Exactly.
I know that's way easier said than done,
Uh-huh.
but I think we spend too much time seeking the approval of others that we forget to seek the
Hmm.
approval of ourselves.
Exactly. I think about that all the time, about how kind of my mindset is, if somebody were to blatantly be um negative towards me while I'm always being nice to them,
Hmm.
it's not my fault. As long as I'm
Yeah.
not doing anything that is provoking that, it's not my fault, and I can't do anything to stop that. They're going
Hmm.
to react however they need to. You know.
Because a lot of that
Yeah.
reaction has nothing to do with you and has everything to do
Mhm.
with how they feel about themselves. So when
Exactly.
I see
Mhm.
that, I just kind of pity people. Getting
Mhm.
beat up for being gay, even though I
Yeah.
wasn't gay ever,
Yeah.
it just made me. I mean, it hurt in the moment because fists and bats and knees and elbows
Yeah.
do. But
Yeah.
as I was getting beat up, it was weird. I would have weird Zen moments where I would be like, man, I feel so bad for this person.
Mhm.
It's a really weird thing to feel
Ooh.
bad for someone who's
Yeah.
punching you in the face. But
That's
like,
yeah.
I did have a lot of anger for that for a while, but I think I've always been an empathetic person.
Mhm.
And I just pity those who put that much effort into hatred and tearing other people down because
Exactly.
it's how they feel about them. So
Mhm.
what you kind of touched on it a little bit, but when did you start to kind of grasp that you weren't a part of the quote unquote norm you weren't completely heterosexual? When did you start to have those feelings?
Um I mean, I guess I think about this a lot, and I've thought about this a lot lately, trying to like pinpoint, like moments and things like that. And I think about um like times where there were girls that I was like a little bit too close to friends with, kind of thing, like growing up,
Mm,
and it was kind of like maybe I was in denial or I didn't really realize it. And I don't think it was until it was probably high school when I started being around friends that were openly gay,
mm-hmm.
and I was friends with them and nobody else cared, and friends that I was friends with didn't really care. And it was probably around then when I started to think about. I remember always saying I haven't been attracted to a girl, but if that were to happen, I'm not going to say no. Like, that's
Yeah.
not, like, I've never been in a position where I would, do something with a girl, but if it would happen, yes, I
Mm-hmm.
would.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that means you had to know that there was at least an attraction there at that point
yeah.
in time, because
Uh-huh.
like I, I like if a guy came around and I was attracted to him, I would absolutely explore that. It's
Hmm.
just literally it's never happened once. Like I've never looked at a
Yeah.
guy and was I can say that's a hot dude, but I'm not. It's a bit different between recognizing attractiveness and being attracted. So
Yeah.
to you, for me, correct me if I'm wrong. For you to have that thought, there had to have been at least a thought of attraction to that gender, or no?
I mean, I think it probably stemmed from like girls and movies and things like that I had looked at. But I had never been attracted to somebody that was in the same vicinity as me.
Yeah.
Like that was so it was always this like, I've never been attracted to a girl like in person, whatever. So if it happens, it'll happen, but I'm not like I'm not going to say no if I'm attracted to somebody. That was the thing that I always fell back on is like why would I regret an opportunity to do
Right.
something if it's, if there's possibly something there,
So how
you
old were
know.
you when you're having this conversation with yourself?
I was probably what 14, maybe
Yeah.
13, 14,
Yeah.
15,
That
you know?
sounds about
Yeah.
normal. Start to kind of
Mhm.
come into your own, figure out your sexuality. So at that point,
Yeah.
had you been dating men at all? I know it's young, but we all do that like boyfriend girlfriend thing in middle school and high school.
I had one boyfriend in high school,
Hmm.
but I never really dated. And that was another thing. I didn't really do like any sort of feelings that I would have had if I was like uncomfortable with them in any sort of way. And I know when I was like, I think the first time a girl ever told me she had a crush on me, that like really freaked me out. And I didn't
Mm.
quite realize why it freaked me out until like now, hindsight's 2020 and it's like, oh yeah, you freaked out because you probably would have been into that girl too. Like it just didn't work out and you were mad about it.
Yeah.
Like so I think
When you freaked out, did you freak out to her, or was this all internal?
no, this was after. I had found out after she had like long after she stopped liking me. Like a few months after she had like I don't know, we stopped hanging out or something like that. We were like friends of friends. We were in a show together, a play together, and so it was like somebody in school that we were in the play with, and then the play was over and it was a few months later and somebody told me that she liked me. And
Hmm.
it was like this weird I just remember thinking about it constantly and not quite understanding why. And like I realize it now and it's like, oh yeah, it's because you were into her too. Like you thought she was cute.
Hmm.
Um and so I think so back to I didn't really date a lot because a lot of the times I was also very invested in music because when I was 13 was the first time I started working with somebody that was going to like doing like artist development and things like that. I was recording, I was writing a lot. So it was very easy for me in any of those times where I would have thought about that if I was closeted in any way or if I was, like I did a lot of internalized thinking about my sexuality before I ever said anything. And it was very easy for me to do because I had other things that I was
Yeah.
more invested in.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I've always had the mindset of like, you know, being in a relationship with somebody or being in love with
It's a
somebody. It's like,
distraction.
yeah, in some way, and that's what it was when I was in high school and when I was growing up. But it was also like this should be something I can do at the same time. You know
It's
what I mean?
really
Like it.
hard. I mean, look at the successful
Uh-huh.
people out there and look at
Yeah.
their ability to maintain relationships. Like in order to really make it as a musician, which is why I stopped trying, is you have to love it. You have to
Yeah.
love it. You have to eat, breathe, and sleep it. And so whoever
Yeah.
you end up with has to be okay with coming second or maybe even third
Yeah.
a lot of the times
For
because
sure.
they're not your focus. And
Yeah.
uh, I've never dated a man, but from dating women, I know there's not a whole lot of women that are like, yeah, I'm sure
Mhm.
I'm fine taking the back seat to the rest of your life. I,
Yeah, it's and that was why another reason why I didn't date a lot of people in high school is because what high schooler is going to understand that?
yeah,
It becomes a little bit easier. It's definitely become a little bit easier since I've started streaming because you have like once you have numbers to kind of back it up, then you get more people that are like, okay, this is an understanding thing. Like this isn't just
yeah.
some pipe dream that you're putting me on the in the in the back seat for. Like,
Some
oh, this is
validation.
your yeah, this is your career, this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. And so it was definitely that was why the only person I dated one guy in high school, and the reason that we broke up had a lot to do with the fact that I wasn't giving him enough attention
Hmm.
because I was doing music things and I was in theater and I was in singing this or
And
that or
that's
whatever else.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
There's going to be people in
Hmm.
life. It would be so cute if relationships just failed or succeeded based on feelings. But there's so many other factors, especially
Yeah.
as you grow older. Life path is one of the biggest ones. And if
Yes.
we all have different needs, and if our needs aren't being matched, have the conversation, and then maybe it's time to move on. And that's nobody's
Yeah.
fault. You know, it's just how it goes sometimes.
Exactly.
So how was this with your, who was the first person you confided this in? Did you have that person that you were like, I'm not 100% sure what's going on here?
I guess I was friends with a lot of people that were openly gay, so it really wasn't anything necessarily. Like it was just kind of like they was probably in a general conversation and we were talking about who liked who or who was that, and I was like, yeah, no, I've never been into girls, but like I'd be into it if someone came along that I was attracted to. But there wasn't really like, I was fortunate enough that I really didn't, or I guess not fortunate enough, but I wasn't I never had like a sit down, I'm coming out and I'm really, really nervous about it because this person might not be okay with me telling them this. Like I was very fortunate that the people that I was around and my family and my parents and everybody was very understanding. It was just very
That's
like, yeah,
awesome.
okay. Yeah, it was really cool. So I
Yeah.
didn't, it wasn't, it like everybody was okay with me being like, I don't, like it's like whoever, it doesn't matter,
Yeah. You've never
hmm
really had like I mean, it's because you're interacting with me, but you've never really had a super flirtatious personality. Like you like to joke around, but like
hmm
I've never really got a sexual vibe off of you.
Mm-mm.
You just, so do you think maybe that's so for me, one of the big issues with me not wanting to date men is I don't like other penises. You know, that's
Yeah.
if I see a penis, it's probably a no because I'm attracted to vaginas. It's not
Yeah.
the penis's fault. It's just how my brain works. It's how it's wired.
Yeah.
So do you think for you, one of the reasons that you're like, I don't really care is because you're not a super sexual person? Or like explain it, because a lot of people base their attraction off of sex and you're
hmm
basing your attraction off of personality. Are there sexual aspects of it is what I'm asking.
For sure. I'm just not like, I think me not being like openly sexual is more of just like a defense mechanism. Like I've just
Mm,
never really been that kind of person. Like I've always been kind of a tomboy. And I've always like, I've just wanted to be comfortable. And I think an aspect comes like the older I get to where it's more like, the more skin I show, the more chance of me being assaulted in some way, which is so
yeah.
horrible to think of. But it just like makes me be okay with my like comfortable. Okay, you put in some like you put in some thought to what you're wearing, but like not enough to like really care. You know
You're
what I
just
mean?
not trying to arouse anybody. You just
Yeah,
kind of want to
exactly.
float.
And I think it's also I like being able to have that separation. And
Mm.
like people know that if I'm flirting with them, I'm flirting with them. Like there's a very
Yeah.
noticeable
Mm-hmm.
line, cuz then it's if somebody thinks I'm flirting with them, it's literally just because I was being nice to them. Like it has nothing
Yeah.
to do with me actually being a flirty person or anything like that. So,
That's the struggle that I have
mhm,
because you know me, like I am a naturally flirtatious person. I flirt with
yeah.
guys, girls, puppies, doesn't matter. Like it's just fun. And I
Yeah.
do find myself running into that sometimes where like people are taking it seriously and I'm
hmm
like, "Oh, no, I was just, being just playing around." So
Yeah.
maybe I should take a page from your book and not end up in that situation anymore. It's just fun to flirt. It's just fun to flirt with people. I don't know.
Yeah, I just am
My dad's the same way. I get it from my dad.
yeah.
But actually,
Okay.
funny story about my mom and dad when they first started dating. My mom and dad met when they were like 15, but they didn't start dating until they were like juniors in college. And I asked my
Okay.
mom if someone had told you when you first met my father that was going to be your future husband, what would you have said? I asked her this on camera, and all she did was laugh as hard as anyone could ever have laughed, right? So, my dad has a naturally like flirtatious personality, a way with words, and he had just started dating my mother, and my mother's all of like 5'3", really nice lady. I hope you get a chance to meet her. She loves you. She thinks that you're great.
Oh,
My parents
hi,
follow
Chris's
everything that
mom.
I do. So if
Oh,
I've,
really?
yeah, they watch everything.
Oh, hi, Chris's mom. Are they gonna watch this?
They probably will. Yeah.
Oh, hi.
So they both went to University of Illinois, and it was a small campus. University of Illinois was a much smaller campus back then, so it was like a certain bar area that everybody would go out to. And my
Hmm.
mom happened to end up at the same bar as my dad, and he saw him chatting up this girl. Now my dad, what he says, and I believe him, was like there was no real intention behind it. He just likes the attention and likes to flirt with people. And so my
Mm.
mom, my mom, and that's true. There's been situations like that where that happened to me
You know
too.
what they call that?
What?
They call that a tease.
I've been, I have been called that on more than one occasion. Yeah, I'm a tease. But it's fun to tease as long as nobody gets hurt. Okay, at least that's how much. You know what?
As long as all parties have consented, it's
Exactly.
it's okay.
What am I supposed to do? Be like, I'm gonna start flirting with you. Are you gonna take me seriously? Because if you are, I gotta go. Like, how does that conversation go? I'm
That's
not.
exactly it.
You know what?
Or just be like,
No.
"Hey, I'm Chris. I'm a friendly dude. I don't want to have sex with you, but I might flirt with you. Just so you're aware." Okay,
Hey.
cool. Can we be friends?
Okay, I'm still never gonna do that. I'll just probably tone it back or something. But
All right,
so,
I'll do it for you.
thank you.
Any situation you're in, that's the first
When
thing
you
I'm going to say to them.
When you come out to Denver, and,
Yeah.
and when we see each other, I'm sure at other things, you can be my wing lady that just tells people
Yeah.
that I don't want to have sex with them. Because
Perfect.
9 times out of 10, I don't. I'm just having fun. So my mom sees him talking to this girl, and man, if you had met my mother, this would be so much more impactful. But she walks up to him and grabs him by the collar and turns him around and says, "You're with me now."
Oh, that's amazing.
Mama does not play. I love that story. But yeah. Yeah, but the thing you were talking about like not wanting to show like too much skin because you don't want any unwanted attention, like if there is a more glaring example of my privilege as a male, I don't like women think about whether they're going to be assaulted or raped every day when they go out. I never once think about that. Like maybe if I'm walking down a dark alley, I'm like I could get beat up, but like the amount of safeguards that women put on, like, because I will go out on a date with
Yeah.
a girl and she's got like set up phone calls and location on, and like I try not to take it personally because I know it's not really about me, but it's just like it's tough though because
Yeah.
even if you're a decent dude, you haven't done anything to make her feel threatened, you still get kind of treated like a sexual predator, and it sucks, but I also understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's definitely it's a weird yeah, it's a weird world we live in, and
Yeah.
it's really sad. It is really sad. Like I think I'm like part of the reason that I don't leave my house that often. I don't really go places, I guess, which is fine because I work from home.
Yeah.
But like it is something that I do have to think about a lot. Like, okay, who am I with? Am I gonna have a buddy with me? Is there a guy that's around me? If there's a guy with me, then I don't have to think about, what I'm wearing. I don't have to think about, anything else because there's just somebody that's there. It's a different
You have
it's a different
a
thing.
bodyguard or
Yeah,
something.
there's somebody that's kind of maybe could puff up their chest and like stand in front and maybe it'll do something, right? Like
I'm
more intimidating, less of it. I guess
practicing.
it's sad that that's that anybody has to think about, but
A witness
you-
at the very least, yeah.
Mhm.
It's that. Can everyone just keep their genitals and hands to themselves, please?
That's the world I want to live in.
Yeah, like I have like all this like Me Too stuff that came out. I was like, here's the rule: if your genitals aren't showing, or their genitals aren't showing, your genitals aren't showing. Like,
Perfect.
just wait till everyone has exposed themselves and you've established
With
consent.
consent.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as they have consented to show their genitals.
And people talk about how uncomfortable, like, oh, it's so uncomfortable to like have that talk. And I was like, if you're too uncomfortable to have that
Yeah,
talk, you're too uncomfortable to have adult situations.
exactly.
Straight up.
Also, nothing's uncomfortable if you say it confidently. Like, just fucking own your shit and nobody cares.
Yes, where do you get that confidence from though? Because not that's actually like what you're describing,
It's
and this
all
is
fake.
it's called fake. Is it
It's
fake?
all fake. It's all fake.
Is
Are you
it?
kidding me? It's
What?
all fake. This is like, you don't have to actually have, if you tell yourself something enough, you will start to believe it. I do this all the time. And I also know this because I overthink when like anything is like minorly bad. Like if I'm getting kind of sick, I'll overthink it until I get actually sick.
Yes.
So it works both ways. But the positive way is that, and I learned this when I first started performing,
Mm.
was that it doesn't, if you don't know what you're doing, but you stand up there and you seriously tell yourself that you know what you're doing, or you seriously act like you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times, every single person that is watching you will also think that you know what you're doing.
Because they don't know what's
And
going on in your mind.
exactly. And that's all that that's all that it is. And then eventually it becomes like actual confidence, because you start
Huh.
telling yourself that you are good enough to do this, or that you can do this, and then it starts working, and then you start seeing people looking at you like you're confident, and then it's like a snowball kind of thing. It's also easier said than done, but it
Mm.
is just that simple sometimes. It's just
I started practicing affirmations.
mhm.
I actually, you know what's interesting is I actually started getting more involved with meditation as well.
Yeah.
And I was using Headspace, which has been wonderful for guided meditation because
Mhm.
I didn't really quite understand like, okay, so I sit and I breathe and that's it. And they're like, yeah. I was like, what? I always like to know exactly like what the purpose is.
Mhm.
And I was reading a book called 10% Happier. I like self help books that are not like that are based on something, not like just feel how you feel. Like I don't connect with that. Like
Yeah.
give me some
Uh-huh.
tangible shit that shows me
Yeah.
what works. And the way he described meditation, it really helped me to be able to just do it on my own.
Mhm.
So basically, he was like, sit and focus on your breath, and when your mind wanders, bring it back to the breath. That's literally all I do now. So
Mhm.
I was trying to do yoga. I'm trying. I'm not happy. If I'm straight up honest, like I'm not happy right now, and I'm trying to fix that because it's on me.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do yoga and I was like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. So I'm going to meditate and see if I can get myself in the right headspace. And I was sitting at the table and I was meditating and my mind was wandering to very toxic places. My inner talk right now is not a good thing. And what I found was, okay, bring me back to my breath. But that negative voice was so loud. And
Mhm.
so what I did was I combined the affirmations with the meditation and I told myself, I love you and you're going to be okay until I brought myself back to the breath.
Mhm.
And then I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I really am going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then all
Uh-huh.
that negative stuff went away. And then I started
Yeah.
crying, which is a whole other
Uh-huh.
story. But it was
Yeah.
like that it's crazy
Mhm.
just in your
Yeah.
mind how you can manipulate where
Mhm.
you're going and how you feel and how, even on your physical health it
Yeah.
helps.
That's what this tattoo. So this tattoo is I got it in London, but it says it's okay in it.
Mm.
And the reason that I got that was because I was in the Netherlands and I had a panic attack.
Mm.
And when I had the panic attack, I was freaking out about all these things that Brene Brown talks about shame gremlins, and all of these things that I was shameful about, and I was talking myself down for, and the
Mm.
only thing that could help was going through all of those things and saying it's okay that this is happening. It's
Mm.
okay that this is going on. It's okay that these are happening. And it was just like a mantra that I had to repeat to myself of it's okay,
It's
it's
okay.
okay, it's
Yeah.
okay. And exactly, it's that same thing of if you tell yourself something enough, you start to believe it.
Yeah.
Like as complex as the brain is also like seems to be easily tricked sometimes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I think
Hmm.
understanding that you are in control of
Exactly.
your
Hmm.
thoughts, and
Yeah.
not the brain controlling
Hmm.
you. I mean, there are some obviously extenuating circumstances there, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. So back to sexuality.
Yes.
Do you find you struggle to explain your mindset to other people? Like, do you think people get confused, or have you had any like
Um,
negative experiences when it comes to your
no.
sexuality?
I've been very fortunate
How
that I
did you
haven't had
get so
anybody
lucky?
that's
Like I've
I think it's because I just pick the people that I spend time with very, very carefully.
standards,
Yeah.
boundaries, and
Yes,
enforcing them.
exactly.
Enforcing them is the most
Yes.
important thing.
I'm very like I know when I don't like somebody, and I know when they do something that they don't like, and I feel like I spent so much time in like high school, and like we all spend so much time for a good chunk of our lives just being around people that we don't like, and just tolerating people that we don't actually want to be around, and
Mm,
they make us mad, and they make us upset, and it's not a fun thing to be by.
yes.
And so I just got sick of that and decided that I would be more selective with the people that I want to be around, because
Mhm.
it's in the long run better for both of us. Like when you have
Yes.
to tolerate somebody that you don't like, that's not good for you, and that's you're then treating the other person unkindly because you're not happy about it, and then that's bad for them. So why
Yeah.
spend time with them?
Yeah, I find that yeah, I really vibe with what
Hmm.
you just said. I found actually
Yeah.
what was interesting is I spent 2 months backpacking across Europe. I went
Yeah.
to 11 countries over the course of
That's
those
so
2 months.
cool.
So you just
Yep.
bounced around. Regular
Hmm.
size backpack. Like when you break down what you really need, you don't need
Hmm.
all those extra things. And when I came back to the US, the comparisons between the mindset of people in these countries, and obviously the countries were all different, but European mindsets tend to be like pretty universal on a lot of things. And
Hmm.
I noticed that in America, we are so obsessed with making sure that everybody likes you.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people that I've been around because I have the very same mindset that you do. You're an intuitive then. Like you
Yeah.
sense, I think we all sense when things are good, when you feel
Hmm.
good around somebody. We just
Yes.
ignore it for the sake of social decorum. You
Hmm.
don't want to make someone feel bad, but then you also allow that toxic energy into your life. Whereas if we
Exactly.
all just like been like, hey, there's nothing wrong with you, you're just not for me, and move on. But
Hmm.
we're also worried about hurting other people's feelings
Hmm.
at our own expense, though.
Yeah, and I guess that's where it comes to where I I mean, I've never had to tell somebody like, "Hey, I don't like you." Like I usually just kind of know, like again, I'm an intuitive person, but even more so, I think that it's like it's it seems I don't know. It seems like a weird it shouldn't be an insulting thing for you to tell somebody like, "Hey, you might be really cool, but I'm not going to spend that much time with you." Like I'm not it's not that great. You know what I mean? Like or just you shouldn't necessarily have to give that person an explanation unless you've already put in so much work to be that person's friend. And I also think there should be a good balance of correcting yourself as well, like allowing yourself to be in those situations to try and learn other outlooks and things like
Yeah,
that. Like what's your reasoning for not being, not wanting to be around that person? You
yeah,
should, I think, force yourself to be around them for a period of time to learn different opinions and, various different things, because that's a I don't know. It's also comes down to there's I think it's such a weird thing. I think people get insulted by a lot of stuff that they shouldn't be insulted
It's
by.
ego.
You know?
It's very
Yeah.
sensitive egos. We want everyone
Hmm.
to like us, and not everyone is going to.
Exactly.
But
And
you,
that's not a bad thing. Like
no.
that's
It's
okay if people don't like you.
you're saving someone time. Like anyone
Exactly.
that I have dated, that I ended the relationship, or anyone that there's a lot of people like, I don't think Chris likes me, and it's like, it's not that I
Hmm.
don't like you. I just don't want to be around you. Like that's
Hmm.
not, you're not a bad
Yeah.
person, you know.
Yeah.
But people think I'm a dick, where
Hmm.
really it's like, I know that we're not going to be friends. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know that it doesn't feel right, and
Hmm.
maybe I'll get proved wrong later, but for right now it's a no, and I have that choice.
Hmm.
That's consent. That's consent
Yes,
for people to be in your
exactly.
life. So if we want to talk
Hmm.
about consent with relationships, sexual stuff, it should count the same for whoever we
Yeah.
allow in our lives.
It's consent all round.
Yeah,
Maybe the US just needs a big old lesson on consent.
they just need to get the fuck over themselves. Like,
Yeah. It is it did yeah. And I think that's where, because I also kind of think about how I'm like, it's kind of unfair for me to talk about not getting along with people because I generally get along with most people. But there are people that I know I can only get along with for a period of time. You know, like
like me.
yes,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
There's people that I can only get along with for a period of time. Or I know that they're people that I want to be friends with, but like I want to be friends with them at a distance. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hang out with them every day. I want to see them like a handful of times a year and like catch up and get to know them. And I love those people and I will love those people. I just know they're not somebody that I could spend, hours and hours with, hanging out with
Yeah.
or like talking to on a daily basis. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's also a weird concept for people to kind of grasp. They think that, if you're not, I think some people have this feeling that friends are like, if you're not constantly in contact with that person, if you're not constantly talking with that person, if you're not constantly doing these things, then they're not your friend,
Yes.
which doesn't necessarily
No.
matter.
N-
It's, is that person going to be there for you when you want that person to be there for you? Like, are they nice to you? Do they
yeah.
care about you in some manner? Like,
Yeah. I
they
mean,
don't need to talk to you every day then.
there's my friend Laura.
Yeah.
I've known Laura
Hmm.
since I was 15 years old. We went to high school together.
Hmm.
We talked for a while after high school. I went to college for a couple years, came back. We maintained our friendship, and then I moved to California. And she lives in Denver. She's got,
Hmm.
she's married, she's got a couple of kids, but she was pretty much the only person that I knew in Denver. And when I hit her up and was like, "Hey, I'm moving to Denver," she wasn't like, "Oh, hey, stranger, nice to
Yeah.
hear from you finally." She was like, "Hell
Hmm.
yeah, let's hang out." Like, we didn't skip
Hmm.
a beat. And I
Exactly.
think those are like the true relationships that you have where like, but I mean, you
Yeah.
obviously like, you don't, if you feel used, there might be some reasoning behind it. Like if I only hear from you when you need something, I have a problem with that, because
And
that's
and
that's
that's
not
a,
really a friendship to me.
no, and that's not, like, that's not, and that's where the exception is. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's like, there's, of course, there's circumstances as to where it is, and it's a weird line that you have to balance. But I think it's
Hmm.
a line that everybody eventually has to learn, or they eventually learn on their own. You know what I mean?
And
Like, it's not.
it's not catch all for everybody. It's
Mhm.
based on the individual.
Exactly. And I'm sure there are some people that love making sure everybody likes them and they'll live every day of their life doing that and they'll be very happy doing so. But that sounds miserable to me.
Right. No, thank you. I'll
Yeah.
put that on the side. I feel like a lot of the reason that you're so comfortable with who you are and your sexuality is because you seem to have a very strong sense of self. Is that an accurate
Hmm.
depiction of you?
Yes.
Where does that come from? How did you get that? There's a lot of people who want that, who want your
Yeah.
quiet confidence. How do you develop
Um
that?
I guess so a lot of it kind of comes from I mean, I've wanted to be a singer for my entire life. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like since I could form thoughts, I've wanted to be a singer. I've wanted to be a successful like singer. So when you have that attached to you already, it's just like one big thing that you don't have to worry about. And that's
Mm-hmm.
an identity on its own. So I feel like in the years where you would spend really second guessing who you are and what you're supposed to be doing, and where you're supposed to be going, where your confidence would deplete because of those things, you know what I mean? I had something to attach myself to. I
Mm-hmm.
had a sense of belonging. I had a sense of purpose. I had something that I was trying to force myself into. But then it kind of goes into I've also had to do, because I don't know everything that I'm doing, but I know that it comes from like a weird, oh gosh, how do I explain this? It comes from a lot of different things. There's a bit of it that comes from not being afraid of failing and accepting failure and realizing that if you fail, that doesn't mean anything, and just knowing that like what your purpose is this is your purpose. But it's also come from a lot of like self-searching in the last few years. Like I've Brene Brown is a big one. I've spent a
Yes.
lot of time like reading about that, and seriously thinking about what am I doing and the choices that I'm making, and the places that I've been, and who I'm spending time with, and how
Mm-hmm.
I'm treating other people, and how I'm treating myself. And like I spent basically all of last year just like soul searching and trying to better myself first, and learning that lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of that. A lot of it comes from just faking it till you make it as well. Like you
Mm-hmm.
just tell yourself that you can do it, and it
Yeah.
happens. But I've also always been a confident person. I think that also probably stemmed from having really supportive parents, and having people that were okay with me being like, hey, I want to do this over this, and were supported me doing
I
that,
mean,
you
I've
know.
only interacted with your mother, but your mother is extra. Like, out of the moms I've met in my life, I've never seen someone communicate so much in emojis or emotes in my
Oh, my mom.
entire. I was like, is that really your? I thought it was a bot. I thought it was just like you made a bot that was like your mama Megan or Megan mom or whatever. I was like,
my
she's a
my
lot.
mom
She's awesome. She
my
else
mom
is she listening?
is, yeah, she is. That was her
was,
cheering
was that
upstairs.
her wooing in
Oh,
the background?
my mom is you've watched that 70s show, right?
Yes. Oh, is
My
she the
mom is
mom?
Kitty Florman.
Yes.
My mom is Kitty Florman.
I need to
That
come
is her.
visit. I need to visit for sure.
Come to Minnesota. You
Yes.
can, oh, you will be. My mom is just like very Midwest mom,
Yes.
loves everybody, just immediately she sees you and she loves you, and you're her child. And it's the most amazing thing in the world. And I hope to one day be as nice as my mother is.
I'm also a product of a Midwest mother.
Nice.
So I
You
totally
understand.
I
Yeah.
totally understand my mom. So that makes the story for about her grabbing my dad by his collar and turning him around make a lot more sense to you. My mom is very
Yeah.
similar to your mother. So I'm assuming that you got a little bit of that from her.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I guess, and that it's a weird, like, where does it come from? Is it nature versus nurture? Who is it? Is it because of the fact that I was really fortunate, and I grew up with really good parents, and I grew up with people that really cared about what I was doing and always supported what I wanted to do, so I never had to really second guess. Like I say, of course we second guess ourselves every day, but it was always, I had somebody there to, if I did second guess myself, to push me to continue doing it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Somebody to validate my confidence in some sort of manner. But I think also learning, I wasn't always confident. I was very narcissistic for a very long time
Oh, we all
before
go
I
through that.
yeah, before you ever learn to like knock it down, and you humble yourself, and then you become quietly confident.
Did you have a humbling moment though? I had a very specific one. I was arrogant as AF, and then I had a record deal, and then I realized that record deals don't mean anything. Um, it's
That's a
like
great way to humble
it's
yourself.
like a cute
Yeah.
promise, but it's not really a
Yeah.
promise. It's like we might record something, we might use you, we might shelf you, we might drop you.
Yeah.
So at least, but you're on the next step.
Yeah, exactly. I most of high school was my humbling moment, I guess. Like I didn't have I think it was a lot of friends that were kind of mean to me that you
Mm,
would probably consider were bullies,
mm.
telling me that I was a narcissistic asshole and like explaining to me that like we don't want to be around you because you're like way too cocky and having I think that kind of like all of your friends leaving you for that reason or like
Wow,
people
they
leaving you
left
for
you.
various. Oh, I had some horrible friends growing up. I had some bad friends growing
Okay,
up.
just hear me out because I
Um,
don't know the exact situation, but
mhm.
I want people in my life that are gonna be like, "You're being a cocky piece of shit," and if I don't
Yeah.
change, them leaving. That's totally their prerogative. So
Uh-huh.
so they were because it seems like they were being
So
honest, but they were also awful. Like you need those
so
people to humble you, but
yeah, no. These were like this was like the I guess it was these were the people that were like they would also I'm trying to think of the example or the best one. The same kid that would tell me this was the same kid that told me after I think he told me something that I wasn't going to be a singer, that I wasn't going to be a successful musician, and then he later on told me that I was in for a rude awakening and it was like multiple times would be my friend and then would tell other people how much he hated me or whatever else. Like these were people that weren't
uh,
good
you
necessarily.
were
And it
a
was also usually done in a very in like a
yeah.
bullying
It
sense.
wasn't constructive
But
criticism.
no, of course not. It was probably in a way like just I probably might not have even been that narcissistic. I guess I and like looking back at it, I definitely was, but it did probably didn't matter whether or not I was confident or narcissistic. It was just they were gonna take anything that was in any sort of way positive or something that they didn't have and try to, belittle or create something different. You know what I
The
mean?
line between arrogance and confidence is a
Hmm.
thin one and also subjective to the individual that you're in front of. That's what makes it
Exactly.
difficult. So you in my from what I'm hearing, you were a mirror
Yeah.
to them. And
Hmm.
they looked at themselves in you and saw that they weren't where they thought they want to be or they didn't
Yeah.
possess what you have. You might have been, look, if you're a performer, you have an
Yeah.
aspect of narcissism, you have an
Yeah.
aspect of arrogance,
Hmm.
100%. No one wants to watch a humble performer
Hmm.
be like, "Hey guys, so I can't believe you're here, so I guess I'll like you got
Yeah.
you want to exude
Uh-huh.
that confidence."
Yeah.
And that makes people uncomfortable. So yeah, done in a
Yeah.
constructive way is definitely
For sure. And I would definitely want a friend now to tell me that I'm being an asshole if I'm being an asshole. But it was definitely in a but I think a lot of those just like friends saying things of that sort, or
mm,
I would just get a lot of ridicule from, kids in school for because also when you're in middle school, when you're in high school, you're around so many people that don't have any self-confidence whatsoever. Like, of course they're gonna take attack anybody that isn't there. Exactly. They're,
yeah.
exactly what you said.
It's a
And so it
weird time.
was.
It's a weird time. You
Mhm.
got all these hormones going on and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
And so they saw somebody that like knew what they wanted to do with their life and was, not going to take no for an answer and they hated that. And so in return, it humbled me a lot and it
Mm,
made me, like realize like okay, you have to understand that you're not good but also understand that you are good at the same time.
mm. Something that you touched on a little bit that I think is a really important lesson is that of failure.
Hmm.
As someone who's been an online content creator for 12 years, like I'm become very, very comfortable with failure
Yeah.
because it's how you grow. Did you have a mentor that helped you get that mindset about failure? Like it's hard to know that that would just like pop up in a young person's
Yeah.
mind. Did you have someone that helped you?
I'm sure I did. I'm sure I heard it from somebody. And I don't know specifically who, but I also know that I also like think back to how many, because like I've never won a talent competition. So like growing up, I was in, hundreds of talent competitions, because that's the only thing you can do when you're 8 years old and you like singing and performing. You enter talent competitions. Never won a talent competition. I always got second place. I always lost to somebody. I always had something that that didn't go wrong, or that went wrong and I didn't win. And so I was always the one that was or the underdog in a way, except I never won anything. So I wasn't the underdog. I was just
Just
the loser, right? I was just
I
the
guess.
loser. So I was always the loser. So I think it was like, it was either a, you become okay with failing, and it might have been my parents even that told me that it's just like, no, you can't, failing isn't, it's okay to fail. It might have been a mentor that said it to me, but it also just could have been my own coping mechanisms of
Yeah.
realizing, like, just going through in my head of, hey, you know what, this, it's kind of inevitable that you're going to fail in any sort of manner, and you can't get away without failing something. Like, that's just what happens.
There's also so many reasons why they pick someone over
Hmm.
somebody else that's really
Exactly.
nothing to do
Hmm.
with talent. I mean,
Oh,
did you
100%.
do Idol at all, or did you do any of those
I've
shows?
done a couple auditions for a couple of those shows, yeah. I've
Yeah.
never been on any of them, but I've seen the contracts and I've
Yeah.
gotten close.
The contracts
Yeah.
are locked down
They're
good.
nuts.
Yeah. I think like so
Mhm.
I did the first season of American Idol I auditioned for was the second season. And the
Ooh.
contracts back then were unreal. They lock you, they have like a
Wow.
cut of your next 5 albums.
Wow.
It was, and that's not even if you win.
Hmm.
That's like if you're in
Hmm.
the top 10. So what does the future look like for you? First let's talk about the dating stuff. Like what, like do you see yourself settling down, getting married, having kids, any of that stuff?
I mean, Uh, I am a very specific type of person, so it takes a very specific type of person to get along with me. And also with the kind of job that I have and the kind of life that I live, where I don't know when I'm going to be gone. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know if I'm going to be on tour. I don't know if I'm going to be in another city. I don't know what I'm doing. Also, I'm making money on the internet, so I have to be, you know, on the internet for a really long time for most of my day. It takes a very specific kind of person, and also just my personality in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it very specific kind of person to tolerate that?
Wait, okay, you keep talking up like it sounds like you have an idea of who this specific person is. Describe the specific person that you would need personality wise in order for you to consider them.
I need somebody that is. They need to be able to combat my um what do I say? My how I'm a smartass. I was gonna put it's my smartassness.
Yeah.
That's not a that
I
works,
mean,
right?
we get what you're saying. Like combat the sass. Combat the
Yeah,
sass.
yeah, yeah. I need somebody that can fight with me a little
Feisty.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, little
A little
feisty, a little bit of
feisty.
fire in there.
Yeah.
I need somebody that is, but they also need to be funny and lighthearted, and they need to be a good person. I guess that's what kind of it comes down to, is they just need to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of changes all the time as to like who I would be into, because I also like a lot of different people. Like, I can get
Yeah.
along with a very wide range of people. Like, if there was somebody that was super outgoing and unbelievably nice and just never really like verbally sparred with me or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I would be fine with that too. But it's, I think it's a specific kind of person that can handle the life that I live.
And do looks factor
More
into it at
so.
all?
Sometimes. I mean, they have to have like a good-looking face for the most part. But
Yeah.
also there's sometimes where I'm not attracted to the person originally, but then I get to know them and I become more attracted to them after like meeting them.
Yeah, this has been a discussion in my chat multiple times where like my belief is that if you don't have that spark for someone, which is something that I know personally that I need in order to continue, you can't survive on candy. That's one of my favorite Gavin DeGraw quotes. Like he's got a whole song called Candy where it basically talks about like you can't just have like the hot sexual aspects of a relationship and expect to survive. But I can't learn to have that for someone. I can learn to appreciate them, but like I don't know that animalistic feeling, and that this is when I wonder, because the people who argue against it are usually female and the people who argue for it are generally male. So I wonder if it is a gender thing, or well, I don't know, because I need that. I need fire. I need spark to start a fire.
Yeah, and well, that's where there's been people that I guess that can develop for me. Like that, it's not always an instantaneous thing. It's not. There has been people that I've been really into that first time I saw them for a while, I never would have thought anything about it. Like, look at your mom and your dad. Your mom knew your dad for so long before there was ever anything. Like,
I know. I can't do it. I can't. I like if I don't feel it, that means I'm not going to. And it's not that I'm not open to it, because I've stayed friends with them. I'm one of those dudes who can actually be friends with a member of the opposite sex and not try and have intercourse with them. It's a skill, apparently, that is rare, but I do a really good job.
Yeah.
And but if I'm not initially attracted to you, I can say you're an attractive person but not be attracted to you later.
Oh, okay.
But I can never become. I can't be like, oh, maybe I am interested in you. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's happened.
Yeah,
One day. Watch, one of these days, you'll have like this weird sexual awakening and like like when you're like an old man and you'll be like, dang it happened now.
Do you even work still? Hey, down there. Hello? We're ready now.
Exactly.
Because my brain is so open-minded, but my penis is so closed-minded. It's so annoying. I would be great at sucking D. I think I would. I have a passion for oral, but I just don't. The idea of having a penis in my mouth just doesn't spark my tutor. You know what I'm saying?
I understand. I get it.
Sexuality
But that's
is annoying.
also the beautiful thing about humanity is that everybody is different. And that it doesn't matter. It comes back full circle. It doesn't matter.
None of it matters. Just do you boo boo. Always.
Yes. Don't be a dick. That's all.
Just don't be a dick. Put it on a shirt. The fuck shirts, just practice it. You know how easy it is to not be a dick? If you feel like being a dick, just be quiet.
It's so easy. It's also so much easier to be nice. It's so much better being nice too, because then you're labeled as the nice person, and everyone wants to be around the nice person.
Yeah. And even more important than niceness is gratitude. That's something Brene Brown talks about. Pretty much any self-help person talks about. Like something that I've been working. People are hooked on me saying sparked my tutor. I don't know where it came from. It's just something I say. I don't know. Something that I haven't been good about is like, so Megan, I'm going to do this with you right now. I think you're a fantastic human being. Like I really appreciated my time at TwitchCon with you because I felt like I was interacting with a real human being. And unfortunately, especially from living in LA for so long, that had become a rarity. So I was really grateful to spend time with you and with Raquel and with Sam, because I felt accepted and I felt like I was having actual interaction with people.
Oh, thank you.
Did I ever say
that was really nice?
Did I ever say that to you?
I don't think so.
No, so I thought it the whole time, but I didn't say it. And that's something I'm trying to get better about is like when I think nice things, say it.
Appreciating people.
And it does something to your brain, and it also elevates other people. And I think that's something that, and you'll find this a lot as you grow and become more successful, or even as your success or your popularity, say, wanes on a platform, you see how your interactions with people kind of change, I guess. I forget what I was saying. It's already gone now. But you kind of get what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
you don't think you think it, but you don't say it. And if we say it, what I was saying is like, as your popularity changes, you'll find that people, their attitudes towards you change a bit. Like, especially if you become more successful, you'll find a lot of people trying to drag you down because they're threatened by your success. But I've always been a rising tide raises all ships mentality. So like, if you, like my friend Grace, who's going to start streaming, she's awesome. She has a great potential to blow up on the platform with her personality and her story. And if she passes me in popularity, I'll be like, hey, I'll be the Lil Kim to your Notorious B.I.G., you know, bring me up with you. But I'm so happy for your success. And I think that's
exactly
lacking a little bit, because we're all so concerned about our thing. But if we raise each other as a community, when you're down, when I'm down, we lift each other up.
I agree. I completely do. That's who I try and surround myself with, are people with that same mentality.
Yeah. So what do you got going on professionally? Like, you doing any tours, like gigging anywhere?
I'm going to be in Nashville next week. I'm recording, and then me and Sam and Raquel are all going to Bonnaroo. So that's going to be streamed, which will be fun.
Nice.
We got like passes and stuff. So Raquel has an IRL backpack. So it'll be like, she's got backstage passes and stuff. So it'll be exciting.
Sweet.
So I'm doing that. And then I'm coming to visit you.
Yep, in August.
So that'll be fun. And then there's TwitchCon, but I'm sure I'll be doing stuff in between there.
And if people want to contact you, where's the best place to do that?
My Twitter. It's just my name, Megan Lenius.
Can you spell that for people?
It's genius if you take the G off and you put an L. So Lenius.
And how do you spell Megan?
Megan.
And don't look at me like there's not 17 different ways to spell Megan.
I know there's a billion different ways, but I spell it the correct way.
I dated an Meaghann in my life, and I'm just like,
that's wrong. She's wrong. That's not how you spell the name. This is where my line comes. Okay, everybody can be people, but if you spell your name with that many extra letters, that's it.
You're out.
That's my line.
Draw the line. Pretty soon they're going to be spelling Megan and wingdings, and we're going to have to figure it out.
No. Get those extra letters out of there.
Okay, so we're gonna get to the Q&A section of the podcast. So we're gonna end the actual podcast part. If you ever want to participate in talking to any of these guests live, make sure you go over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/supdaily, and also supdaily on Instagram and Twitter to know when these interviews are going to happen. And Megan, thank you for sharing your story. It was dope.
Thank you for having me. I love you.
I hope you all enjoyed that episode. Make sure you follow Megan on her social media, but also make sure you follow me so you can participate live over on Twitch, twitch.tv/supdaily. All of the social media is supdaily. If you want to become a sponsor of the show, if you want to help me grow what I do here, make sure you go over to patreon.com/unfilteredfriends. And I'll see you guys on the next one. If you enjoy this, make sure you rate it, share it. If you share it on social media, tag me. I'll post it to my story. This vision of mine does not grow without your support. So thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys all on the next Unfiltered Friends.